welcome in Amsterdam, and I really hope you're going to have a really nice and fruitful and inspiring and all the other things week. And I really hope that we'll be able to manage to come with, at the end of the week, with one version, the first version of a so-called practical guide, that in the end, when it's finished after the exchange program, we can come with a really nice publication next September that can be used by artists all over Europe, hopefully, to help them to successfully develop and execute projects with children in elementary schools, with a focus on deprived areas, as we all know. So I wish you all the luck and all the inspiration, and have a great time as well.
Have in our minds about how things happen, how it is, because what we have here is a wonderful, rich, intercultural, transnational group, and maybe some of our certainties will disappear during that week, or be questioned, or challenged, and we might have to think, which of them do we really need to hold on to, and which things are we prepared to let go, or to shift, or to move during the week. So that's our quotation from the week. Because our questions today are about creativity and who we are and what we're bringing to the creativity question.
So we want you in your groups to think about something that is important for the rest of us to know about your country and how that's influencing your work. Okay, and you're going to do a little presentation of that.
More visuals. Hey, Annemarie. Here.
Here, we're sometimes looking at the arts, because we're all artists, and then we're also looking at creativity, which is much wider, and then we're looking at what that means in terms of creative learning.
So if you are in a car, for instance, and you just have to navigate by the electronic navigator, and he says to you the way where you have to go, and it doesn't work anymore, and you are not able to take a map and to communicate and to look and to find yourself.
To ask people where's the way to.
Yes, this is a culture technique, and we have to maintain it as well. So it's very.
But it's that tension between ownership and also being able to give something away, to share something, to pass something on to other people, all these different stages of creativity, because in the end, who owned that doll? So we have to think about how do we encourage those dispositions in other people. And so this is why, this term creative learning has come up a lot today, because it's much wider than just making art. It's about facilitating something with the teacher and facilitating something with the children.
Slowly come, because one can afford to do that. But I think today it was really important to keep them all on the same track, in the same space.
And I must say, I wasn't there all afternoon, but I'm quite impressed with the intensity and the level of how people work and talk. And it's quite obvious to all of them, I think, that it's not necessarily about them, but it's to create something together, and it's not so much of learning, but to give something. And I think I felt that, although of course it's always a combination of those things. I know that, but I think they have the feeling what everybody's expecting of this week.
There's a kind of structure to it, because also I think if today we'd been too loose, that would not have worked. It would not have worked, because they think, why are we here? Apologise for today, because I think today is important to keep tight.
So you've got 2 minutes.
5 minutes only in your group.
Somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes, because it kind of depends. Can I have your attention, please? The quote that we have for today on the programme is, all children are artists. The problem is how to remain an artist once he grows up, which is Picasso. I think kind of keeping that in our minds, all children are artists. what does that mean, and what does that mean for us?
I don't know if I can do that.
10 seconds for getting your certainty.
But it's not about work and paying, it's about we think that every child is an artist.
Yeah, why?
Every child can make art and create. That's the thing.
Yeah, but they can do it at home. They don't need to go to
They
school
are
to
an
do that.
artist.
Yeah.
We are only saying
You can be in the installation, you can be outside the installation, okay? You can decide where you put yourself. And the other thing we want you to think about is how it relates to your work, okay? So think about if this is you and your work, okay? And yes, are you in it? Are you outside it? Are you standing beside it?
There's a difference between the art forms. There's a difference between, you know, people who have children and people who don't. Those are all part of the cultural context. And I think that's what's really important in our work, that that's what we remember. Because actually we're not looking, yes, of course you all come from different countries, but that's not what we're looking at. But somehow it's about your cultural context. And as I say very firmly, it's not just about your country. You know, something, it could be like something you do as a woman, or something you do as a mother, or something you do as a, you know, whatever, musician. But it's a tiny thing. And you are going to teach your partner to make a masterful copy of that, so that their copy is so beautiful that when we see, if we were to see them all together, we won't have time to do that probably, we wouldn't be able to tell.
Fix a point when they're far away, and that was that.
How many people think Lisa was a teacher? How many people think Roman was the teacher? Oh, 1 or 2 people, I think. Okay.
Yeah, the 1 or 2 people are right.
1 or 2 people are right, yeah. Great.
This is our music class. We make music
You know, because you're art teachers, aren't you? So do artists sometimes come in and not use you enough, or not work with you enough, or, you know, anything like that, where you think, could have been better?
It happens.
Yeah.
And teachers always think that artists who come in the school can teach very well. And I explain several times that it's difficult because you're not a teacher and you have to work together. But still, that's difficult.
Yeah.
And they will learn how to handle different kind of materials. Because if they're gonna build it, and maybe they will handcraft if it's possible.
For you, it's all possible.
Yeah, of course. That's our privilege.
But sometimes it's a good idea to ask the teacher to join the club.
Yes.
And don't walk out of the classroom, this is an hour off, and go and drink coffee in the teacher's room. Because you need the teacher. Because you're a new face for the children, and a new face, you always have to try, see what happens. You have to try.
From the point, how is this feeling for the child right now, this situation? And oof, and the child said,
The child said yes, the teacher should first go away.
And the teacher accepted and walked away a little bit, gave space to the artist. So the artist moved away the chair to give the child space. Meanwhile, the teacher brings the parents into closer to the situation in the classroom.
Same thing. If you're in that school, you should be seriously learning and having very little fun.
But being punished is
punished is the word. Yeah.
We don't want them to be happy. We want them to be punished.
Yeah. Yeah, like in the military. Yeah.
These are the parents, not the teachers. The teachers are trying to engage creatively so that the children become motivated. The parents are saying,
if this was a room in a school that you had been asked to work in, if you arrived and you had your project and you're in the school and this was the space,
how you're going to change that room that you find. Because some of the rooms are very small, or this is half a big room with other people in, and you know, all those things. Some of the doors don't close properly. Some of the, you know, what's the lighting? What's the sort of situation?
I think it's great that you can get them one by one, and then you can create the right atmosphere.
But you should have the times.
Yeah.
But children have to quite naturally, don't they? They follow each other, they have thinking, they're feeling like one, they just flow in.
So, as Chrissy said, we, as a group, we tried to take into account as many of your preferences as possible, including the countries that you were interested in working in. So can you please so the threes find each other, the pairs find each other. So can you put yourselves in your groups?
And the excitement is that having the main project of the working in the school, but also because we are all involved in other things, to also experience it, you know.
Hey, is that a teacher?
Vi börjar här, ja.
Så kan inte sitta och rita allihopa.
Ska man sitta och läsa?
Kan göra något annat. Jag läser.
So I feel like I'm one of the children coming from abroad to this country and then don't even understand the language, but trying to come by and get as close as possible to the way of living here. So that's really nice. Perhaps it helps me just to work, to see what's happening here in another country, to understand the children who come from another country to Holland as well.
Yeah, it's really good.
And then another.
Okay, so
we can do some sounds with all the
in the beginning.
In the beginning, and then some sounds.
Okay, and you give them the instructions, and I translate. Yeah.
You are very good. I've never heard such a good in the Netherlands. Such fast, quick learners. Yeah. Normally I work alone. I work with other artists, but I don't have a building with many people where you go to work, and that's nice here. So I like that. And that's a little bit difficult because you have to.
In our minds and some things, but in order to help other people, in order to help teachers, in order to help other artists who might be working with us, we need to find ways of making that knowledge explicit. So you're just going to describe your own working process as an artist, but in a concertina book. Would you like to start or shall I?
I would like to start.
Okay. 2,
3, 2,
3, 2,
3.
Very nice. On both of you, but what happens if it goes wrong? What did you do?
I blame her. Laughing.
Yeah. You laughed and you acknowledged it, and somebody said, "I'm sorry, that didn't really quite work," you know. And I think that's also really important because that's so often in our adult lives we think we always have to get it right first time, you know, and we don't allow ourselves failure. We don't allow ourselves to just say, sorry, actually that didn't work, what we decided to do, you know, especially if we like artists going into a school, we feel, it's got to work, you know, but actually we can also get it wrong. You know, and then what happens when people say yes and to each other? What do you notice happens?
Disappointment.
Yes, it's positive, it gets bigger, it opens spaces.
You accept the things.
Yeah, you accept things, and it gives you new ideas, doesn't it? Constantly, it builds. And you know, later you can say the yes, but.
We could do some really interesting work and then.
Oh yes, and then we could look at how our practice works in other countries, and particularly Africa, where the excitement of the culture and everything is what we learn from as well, and then it could take us to new ways of looking at what we do.
And then there's the possibility of actually taking that work and showing all the work all over the place, and then
for the final afternoon. So this afternoon will be devoted to, first of all, thinking about the guide and then do some reflection on the week. But to get us going for the afternoon, Chrissy and I thought we would teach you the song that we used to sing when we were signing in the theatre and education, that we used to teach the primary school children who were hearing, but we used to teach them the signed song. It's very simple. It's very simple. The sun has got his hat on, hip 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 hooray. The sun has got his hat on and he's coming out to play. And I don't think it's about making children be anarchists, although I'm all for that, but I think it's about sort of saying, you know, you have a right to think about your life and what you can change and what you can, but through whatever medium it is, you know, presented to you or whatever, and that's hard.
But
I
it can
think
still
it's
be
also
fun.
exciting.
But it
It can be fun. Of course it can. Yes, but I suppose it's the word fun. It's loaded.